Okay. Well, another episode of the Horns Down podcast. I know that the game is not on right now. I don't know. I'm here by myself. I am your host, Kchris with a K of the Horns Down podcast. Boomer Sooner, Horns Down always. I'm going to have some guys join us here shortly, but man, this is tough. I I don't even really know where to begin with what's going on. I mean, we'll wait for some people to come on here, but I mean, my goodness, this is crazy. I'll put it in there. Just what do you guys think? You guys think? Okay, so let's just start on the offensive side of the ball until we get some people in here. Leading up to the injury, and I hope that he's fine. I hope, especially with everything that's happened to Tua and everything. I don't know. Leading up to the injury, it just wasn't his day. Hold on one second. Let's put that guy in timeout right there. It just wasn't Dylan Gabriel's day today. I mean, leading up to the injury. The overthrows are still there. You're still missing guys on a consistent chip. Um, some of the passes, they're really easy. We can't convert. Third downs, we're terrible. We're terrible at converting third downs. I mean, I don't know. As much as we wanted to get Mims involved in the game, it was just like we couldn't. I don't know if they could have played a more perfect game defensively. I just don't know. Yeah, I'm waiting for some more people to come in, so you guys just come on and yeah. Um, I mean, it is. Do you guys think that we have a levy problem, or is it Gabriel? I mean, I think it kind of goes hand in hand. The offensive line is not really helping you. I know some people will say, "Hey, the offensive line wasn't really the downside of the game," but guys, we got our asses kicked in every phase of the game. Just call it what it is. We got our asses kicked in every phase of the game today, and offensively, we just could never really get anything going. We had promise on some drives. Bowman and Farouk were able to kind of bring the ball back to a reasonable level. You're in plus yardage going in when you on some of these drives, but they just stall out. So it's just almost like it's the same old, same old. For 2 weeks, we've had to deal with this. Like I really don't know. I really don't know where we go from here. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Like, what do you? Excuse me. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Like, what do you think we need to do? I mean, offensively. I mean, we're just talking about the offense right now. We're going to get to the defense here in a little while. But hey, I don't know. I'll read some comments. I don't know. Bubbles the monkey says, I don't know. I think we have so many problems. It's hard to point the finger at one person or position group. It is. It's really hard. Uh, Hank comes on here and he says, just predictable as hell. I mean, and you can elaborate on that. I mean, what's so predictable about what you saw? Run game was decent. Eric Gray came out looking like, okay, we'll be fine. We'll be able to sustain drives. Let's just run the ball. Let's just run the ball. But passing wise, it's just all over the place right now. Talking to my aunt, he said, hey, week 3, I'm fine with it right now. Not in love with Dylan Gabriel, but I'm going to give him till week 5. Are we still going to see some of the things that we saw out there that we've been seeing as far as the overthrows, as far as just the coverage sacks, as far as him being indecisive with the football at times? Are we still going to continue to see that in week 5? If we see that in week 5 and after, then it's time to kind of press that button and say, not necessarily say we need to see a quarterback change, but it's time to say, hey, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. And I myself has tried to make plenty of excuses saying, hey, look, we'll be fine. It's okay. Just give them time. Be patient. But after the day, why would you want to wait on this team and be patient? It's hard. And it's painful to watch because that's not the level of football that we all expect. And that's not the level of football that we expect to see from a team coached by Venomals. Let's go back to the comments. Offense. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I agree with that, David. I feel like we should have ran the ball to kind of settle him down. I mean, we're getting a good push. Gray still wanted to make one too many cuts in the backfield, but I mean, it's crazy. Let's see. I know it was over by this point, but why are we running with Davis? That's what I'm saying. Why not get him snaps? Because we don't know what Gabriel's going to look like next week. We don't know if Gabriel's going to play next week. And so, I mean, you would think that you want to get him snaps in there where he's passing the ball. I mean, they let it rip a few times. He's got a decent arm. He can make the reliable play, but he's going to need some work. He needs to work on his mechanics just as much as everybody else does. And Jimmy's in here. Yeah, it's going to be a long year. It's definitely going to be a long year. But at the same time, you know what? Like David said, it's still year 1. And we've been here before, guys. 2 years ago, let's think about it. In the Lincoln Riley era, hey, we lost 2 games back to back, Iowa State and K-State, still finished the year 10-2, and we won a Big 12 championship. I'm not saying that that's impossible at this point. It seems like it's a long shot, but I mean, is that still doable? Oh gosh. Put that question in the chat for you guys. See what y'all had to say. And that's the question I'll ask right now. Is a Big 12 championships, is it reachable? Can we get there? Can we get to Arlington? What do you guys think? David, to your point, Nick Evers, I don't necessarily think anything has happened to him. Maybe he's taking a red shirt this year. I think he still has a lot of room for improvement as far as growing into this offense. You would think that he would have won the battle outright, but he didn't. But guys in the chat, drop your thoughts about this. Is the Big 12 championship still reachable? But just going back to the offense, receivers still running wide open. We're getting hurried out of the pocket. All of that. It's hard to throw it all on Gabriel, but at the same time, from what you saw these past 5 weeks, it's just not there. It's just not there. Defensively, I think that's we probably should have started with the defense, but defensively, I don't know. I just talked about it on Ty's show. There's a lack of communication. Nobody's communicating. It's all over the place. We're out of gaps. We're not playing sound. We're not playing discipline. And for the love of God, we can't tackle. Give me a second, guys. Trying to get Jay on here. And we are joined by Jay Smith of Unfair Sports.
Sorry, y'all. I'm going to sound like trash as I'm driving back from the stadium. The internet was awful, so I had to leave. So I was trying to get in as soon as possible to be able to talk to y'all and jump in this conversation. Kchris, man, how you feeling, dog?
I'm not feeling good at all. I'm not feeling good at all. I'm trying to figure out where the hell do we go from here. The question that I have on the screen right now, Jay, is can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
The question that I have right now is the Big 12 championship still reachable? I mean, we've been here before where we dropped 2 games. K-State, Iowa State, back-to-back 2020, still won the Big 12 championship. Are we good enough to do that, or is this just going to be a long year?
I'm honestly going to say this is going to be a long year. I think the question right now is, what does it look like with Dylan Gabriel out? Now, with that hit that he took, if they don't take any advice from the Miami Dolphins situation with Tua Tagovailoa, is that they better go ahead and just have Dylan sit his ass out from the Texas game. There's no reason for him to play. That's not a situation you want to play with, especially with somebody's head got hit. You need to go ahead and just not play him and figure out what you're going to do for Texas. So with that being said, is the Big 12 championship reachable? I'm going to say no. I think that the Big 12 championship will go between purple on purple. It'll be between TCU and Kansas State. That's it. The 2 teams we lost to will make us feel better because they're going to run through everybody else in the conference. Man, Joe Klatt said this earlier this week. I put out a video talking about what he felt about Oklahoma and the thoughts around what they got to pay attention to. And his first thing was, this schedule is going to be tough. This Big 12 schedule is tough. All the schools basically either have a new coach or they're seasoned veterans with their best team they've had ever. And it's going to be a dogfight. Everybody's going to beat up on everybody. That's what's going to cost teams from making it to the playoffs. But I honestly think that the way that TCU played with Max Duggins, who proved he's better than Chandler Morris finally, and that they finally showed him some love, that they're probably going to play Kansas State for the title. So I don't think Oklahoma has a chance. There's no avenue for it. We're going to lose probably to Texas. We're going to probably lose to Baylor if we keep playing defense
Hey.
And that's it.
Watch out now. We don't talk that. Horns Down Podcast, we never lose to Texas. We don't lose to Texas, okay, guys? Okay?
I want to say that. I want to say that, and I want to have faith in it. But our defense, letting teams go wide, but make it open for deep passes. There was so many things I took note of in this game, and to be honest, I don't know how to get my thoughts together right now. I'll definitely have it on my recap tomorrow morning where I'll figure out how my brain's going to work on this. But you tried to level a receiver, got lead that they did not call pass interference, but you leveled a receiver instead of getting the interception that was right there in your hands. You had Morrison, you had an interception. It was there. That was an interception.
Jay,
what are you doing? Why are we here? Why are we here?
Jay, here. Okay, so we're gonna back up a little bit. Okay, we're gonna back up a little bit. We're not gonna lose to Texas. We're gonna put this together. Okay, we just can't come out there in a 3-3-5 against Texas. We can't, because if we come out there in a 3-3-5 against Texas, we're gonna get eaten alive with their run game. We're not gonna be able to stop that. It's got to be a 4-man front. Yep. I still have faith in this team.
I do too. I'm not down on this team. I'm not Chicken Little. The sky is falling. I don't feel like the world is coming to an end on this team. I'm good about where we are going to be development wise. The problem is that we are a year away. The thing is that we need better personnel to run the 3-3-5. And it's no shade against in the guys we have now, but we're not getting a push up front anymore. Shockingly, Grimes can't get in the backfield no more. Coy ain't doing nothing. Jeffrey Johnson ain't be able to get any movement. Everything that we were doing in the first 3 games, it's like Will Smith walked in a room from Men in Black, put the taser in front of us, and deleted our memory of how to get in the backfield and how to play defense. That's literally what we're dealing with right now. No matter what we do, it's everything that we did those first 3 games is gone. It disappeared. And so, like I said, The sky's not falling, but I do not feel like we are built personnel-wise to execute on the 3-3-5. We're just not right now. It's going to take probably 5 to 6 games for people to realize where they need to be and how they need to be there to make it work. And that's not enough time to prevent us from not being able to play in the Big 12 championship. I don't think we have a chance of getting there. What's good, PG?
What's going on?
I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, we have Preston Grant from the PG Show. PG, we just were talking about it not too long ago on Ty's live stream. Now that the game is over, or pretty much over, I mean, it is what it is. Thoughts defensively? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what I said on Ty's show, right? I think the answer is on the defensive side of the ball is for them to learn how to tackle, get back to basic fundamental playing of the ball on defense. That's all you need to do, right? I was saying at the beginning of the season, if the only thing that we see an improvement on in this defense this year is the tackling getting better, then that should make OU fans happy. Well, guess what? The defense has not gotten better. The tackling seems to have not gotten better. The coverage, the communication, everything seems to have not gotten better. So we're in the same spot we were last year, every other year with Lincoln, except for we don't have an offense to go out there and score 50 or 60 points to go win us a football game. And so, You know what? As new recruiting classes come in, again, I said it on Ty's stream, I hate to be the person that says, hey, someone's going to take someone's job, because I don't want to just crucify these players. But listen, like, these are not Brent Venables guys. These are not the guys that they would normally go out to go get to be in their defense, right? Like, I guarantee you a lot of these guys would probably not be in a Brent Venables defense if Brent Venables would have been here during these recruiting cycles. So as we get the next couple of recruiting cycles in, you're going to see potentially a lot more freshmen starting as they enroll early. Schmitty builds them up. I've already heard from a lot of the recruits how as soon as the off season hits, they're going to go ahead and start working on their bodies, getting prepared to come in and play at the Power 5 level, which is encouraging to hear that coming in are already taking that mentality that they need to go ahead and get ready before they even get to college. But yeah, I mean, that's really just my thoughts on the defense. They're not getting any better. This is what they've been. I don't know why we're all so freaked out about it. I mean, probably the more concerning part to me is the offense and how the offense can't score.
Let me ask you this question now. Now I asked Jay, and that's what Jay was going in about. And he'll be back soon, folks. But here's my thing, PG. We've been here before. 2 years ago, we lost back-to-back to Iowa State and K-State. Okay. Still were able to reach the Big 12 championship game. We still were able to win the Big 12 championship game, or the title. So my question to you is, and I've asked this, and you can go up in the chat. My question is the Big 12 championship still reachable at this point?
No, it's not reachable. And the reason why it's not reachable this year is because I think the Big 12 is just leaps and bounds better, mainly because I think, a lot of these Big 12 teams, I feel like, can still score at a high level, but I feel like the Big 12 defenses are getting better, right? So I feel like the Big 12 that we saw back in the 2000s to the early 2010s, that's what we're starting to see again with the Big 12. Now, is it too little too late? I think potentially, because OU and Texas are leaving. But yeah, I mean, I was, you saw it in the chat. I don't think they're going to beat, if they keep playing like this, there's no way they're going to beat Oklahoma and Baylor. There's no way they're going to beat next week Texas with Quinn Ewers. There's no way that they'll win any of those games. And
oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, yeah. So that's 5 losses right there. And I haven't even talked about Iowa State or Kansas. And Kansas has got one of the top-rated offenses in the country. So, and so far, you haven't been able to stop a good offense.
Look. Okay. We look terrible today. But in the immortal words of Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, people, relax. And to Norwing's point, I get it. This isn't the same team as that COVID year, but we may be better. I feel like we may have more weapons on both sides of the ball. I feel like we have better coaching. I'm going to believe in this staff until it's basically it's no more reason to believe in his stat. Let me just put it like that. I'm not gonna overreact after this game. I'm gonna still lean on DV, Bates, Roof, Levy, all those guys, and we're gonna correct this. It's not Rome wasn't built overnight. We're gonna figure this out. It may take us a while. Hell, it may be until next year. But I don't see this being a 5 and 7 year. Wink, wink. I don't see this being a 5 and 7 year. I don't see this being a 3 and 9 year. What I see this being is probably probably gonna play in the Cheez-It Bowl. Probably gonna play in the Detroit City Music Bowl. But at the same time, I still see us getting more than 6 wins this year for sure. I told Ty, I don't think that I wouldn't right now after these 5 games. I would definitely not say we're a good team. But I definitely won't say we're a bad team. We're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I honestly I love your optimism there, but I don't think we're in the middle because I just look at the Big 12 and I just go, where are the wins? Especially after watching how we played. Because here's the thing. I get it not overreacting from last week because it's the first week you've seen OU be bad. But overreacting for this week, I think, okay, you've got last week and this week against 2 formidable Big 12 opponents. A lot of people thought TCU was going to not be great this year, and TCU is actually kind of proving us wrong with Sonny Dykes out there. I mean, the schedule past Texas only gets harder this year. It really does because, I mean, every single one of these teams it has a mobile quarterback, and they can all throw the ball. And I don't see where OU is going to win a lot of those games at this point. It's very concerning because especially next week with going and especially with Quinn Ewers coming back, which honestly, if I'm Texas at this point, I don't know if I start Quinn Ewers in that game. I think I'd still start Hudson Card, keep Quinn Ewers on the bench and see just how far that gets you in that game. Because if you can get a win over OU without having to play Quinn Ewers, that's a huge win.
No, I'm not gonna go that far.
But listen, I'm watching the Oklahoma State Baylor game right now. Like this is a very physical game, and it's 7-3. And I mean, I think Oklahoma State's up 7-3 right now, and then Kansas and Iowa State's tied at 0-0 with 29 seconds left in the first. So, I mean, both of these games all 4 of these teams are really high competitive teams that I think if OU plays like they did today and last week, they're not going to beat them. They don't have the offensive firepower to beat them like we did in the past.
Let me ask you a more specific question. What are your thoughts about Dillon Gabriel and his performance leading up to the injury?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm only going to talk about today because the previous 4 games, I thought Dillon Gabriel's actually been really good. I mean, he's missed a couple passes that, you were like, oh, like you should have made that, right? But, I mean, Baker Mayfield and Jalen Hurts and those guys miss those passes too sometimes. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, Dillon Gabriel's just so terrible because he missed them. Like, no, like it just happens. And he just all got to remember, he's a little bit smaller. And I feel like sometimes it's harder to see over those offensive linemen and some of those defensive linemen. And I think sometimes we discredit that. Kyler was just really good because he could get out of the pocket and kind of see. So I thought Dillon Gabriel's performance today, I'd have to give him a D because he was overthrowing his guys by a mile in this game. And then it just seemed like he wasn't there. And I don't know if you noticed that, but he didn't seem like he was there or anybody else on this team was just mentally there today. And I think it really showed when, he was sitting in the pocket for too long and was missing a wide open receiver here, but he would throw it over here. So
keep it going, PG. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no. So I'm not ready to hop on the train that like we should move off of Dillon Gabriel. I think Dillon Gabriel is still your starting quarterback, assuming that he is healthy enough to go on from here. But I think there will be some questions if we go into the next game or two and Dillon Gabriel is still making some of those boneheaded overthrows that we are seeing these past couple games. I know you OU fans you guys, it drives you crazy. But remember, he's not Baker Mayfield. He's not Jalen Hurts. He's not Kyler Murray. And he's not even Caleb Williams, which is saying a lot because Caleb Williams was a true freshman last year.
Well, look, coming into the season, you're thinking he's extremely accurate with the ball. He doesn't really turn the ball over all that much. You want to see how he responds in games like this. Every week, look, here's one thing that people are going to gloss over nationally and locally. K-State and TCU played about as perfect as you possibly can against OU. Have you ever seen Adrian Martinez have a game like that, like he did last week?
No, but he played pretty damn good this week.
He played pretty – yeah, look, I get it. I get that. Max Duggan. We've seen flashes from Max Duggan, but we've never seen a consistent game like we saw today.
Yes, I will give you that
look,
one.
We're going to get everybody's best shot. That's what you have. That's the expectation. This is OU. I don't think that this program is not in disarray. Look, okay, we lost Lincoln Riley, we lost Caleb Williams. Okay, we rebounded. We got the coach that I think that everybody is really pleased with. Is still high on, extremely high on. We just got to figure out what the hell, like, where do we go from here? I mean, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, last week I'm coming into this game thinking, okay, 11-1. Now I'm thinking 10-2. Just got to win out. You got to win. You got to do something. I mean, I'm going to stay optimistic as hell as I possibly can. I mean, I'm not going to deny what we saw today is not promising. It's not the level of football that we're used to watching. And we watched some pretty bad football in our days as OU fans. I think you brought up the point a while ago. This is about as close to that Trevor Knight year as you can possibly get. I mean,
no, I think it's worse. I think it's worse.
You think it's worse?
Yeah. And yeah, I think it's worse because I feel like with Trevor Knight, I just felt like I don't feel like he made some of like the boneheaded decisions to stay in the pocket. Like I feel like Dylan Gabriel stays in the pocket too much. And I feel like I feel like if he would, gosh, like I understand you want to go through your progressions, but I feel like there is a point in time where you have to just go, okay, like I've sat in the pocket for 3 or 4 seconds and I need to roll out and just try to get 3 or 4 yards on this play. Because I'm going to be honest, if you haven't hit one of your receivers in 2 to 3 seconds in the pocket, you're probably not going to hit them at all. It's just not likely because where your receiver is going to go at that point, so I really want to believe that this team could go win out and be 10-2. But I mean, just with all the injuries today, like the injury bug was plaguing the team today. Billy Bowman, Theo Weiss, which I was leaving right as Theo Weiss got hurt, so I don't know what his injury was.
He got up and walked it off. I mean, I think hopefully he's fine.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel. I'm assuming he has a concussion, so we'll see if he is back next week. You have Wanye Morris. I don't think he's going to be back. You just had Harmon carted off the field. So Bowman should be back. If Bowman's not back, I think that's going to be really concerning because I think he's one of your strong points on this defense. So it's just going to come down to injuries, man. If these people can get healthy, then yeah, this team's going to be really good. But
who's defensively? This is something that's kind of a head scratcher to me because I don't want to place blame on the boys, man. I love this team, man. I love this program. I love this team, but damn, who's more at fault in your opinion defensively? The front seven or the back end of the defense? Because I mean, the safety play was abysmal. You could talk about the corners, but hell, it all starts up front. I mean, he could have stayed out. He could have lived in that pocket today. He could have pretty much went and put a lawn chair out there and just sat down and said, all right, give me about 10, 15 seconds. I'll be okay. And the offensive line was like, all right, we got you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's the defensive line. I think it's your front seven because here's my thing. You always want your first line of defense in any point in anything in your life to be the strongest. You don't want to have to rely on your second line of defense, right? You want to be able to rely on your secret sauce. Your secret sauce is that defensive line. And this defensive line is extremely talented. They should be able to play a lot better than they have. I don't understand what happened to this defensive line. I think someone had given them amnesia or something, because Ethan Downs is not playing well. Reggie Grimes disappeared. And Reggie Grimes, the first 2 games, I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to put up Will Anderson numbers this year, which it really did look like he could potentially do that. And then just all of a sudden they have fallen off. Now, our Mason Thomas was not here today. Like, he was injured and somebody else was injured. But guys like Isaiah Coe, like, he needs to be a little bit better. And then Danny Stutzman, like.
Now here's the point before we go to the linebacker core. Ethan Downs has had about as disappointing a year as I've seen. I mean, it's almost like, how should I say this? For a lot of you older OU fans, you'll remember this name. Gosh, what was his name? Austin English.
Yep.
That's what it's feeling like. A lot like Austin English. Austin English had a hell of like a freshman year or whatever class that he was in. But my uncle was saying, hey, man, he made it slide inside because he's not getting that push. He's not doing anything at that defensive end position. You had big hopes for him this year, but coming in, he's not doing what he needs to do.
We're still talking about Downs, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No doubt in my mind he's going to move into the interior next year, especially because here's the thing. You have 5-star PJ Adebawore coming in. He's going to be on the edge. He has to be a starting edge next year. With this team and what they look like, he has to be out there. I don't care.
Yeah.
You've got to start getting talent out there. I think PJ is going to come in ready to play. He's going to have himself built. Smitty's going to get a hold of him in the summertime. I think he's going to be ready. With Smitty gotten a hold of Ethan Downs, and I think a bunch of people have seen how big Ethan Downs was, how explosive he was, and he just has not put it together this season. But I think he'll move to the interior. But I'm not ready to give up on Ethan just yet. I'm not ready to give up on him just yet.
I'm not ready to give up on anybody on this team except for Broyles. We cannot have Broyles out there. I will say this again, and if anybody wants to at me or say anything on Twitter, say it. I do not want Broyles on the damn field. He is a liability. You saw it yet again today. 2 times, busted coverage. And I'm like, man, and look, I know Key Lawrence didn't come in and do anything that was great as well, but at the same time, put your talent on the field. I know it. I know that's Venables. That's a Venable type guy. He's not going to be overly athletic. He's not going to have the highest ceiling. He's not going to have the highest this or that. But at the same time, he's a guy that he can trust. I'm sorry, he can't do that. But, I mean, even with this defense, do you have any problems? I know we talked about play calling offensively, but we touched on that. But do you have any problems with what you're seeing from Ted Roof?
Honestly, it's not even just Ted Roof, but Jimmy made a very good point down here in the comments. We need to scale this whole thing down. I think we need to rip it down to the basics.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. It's not like we expected this staff to go win a national championship. I know I had them in the playoffs. I'm going to admit that. I had them in the playoffs. But it's not like people expected this team to go win a national championship this year. And I know OU fans are going to hate this, but what is there to lose at this point for BB and the staff to just go, all we're going to do this season is focus on these things and getting better at it before next season, so that when we bring in the new guys, you guys can be leaders in that locker room. And we might not win very many games doing that, but look at how much better that's going to put us in the future, because we only have one more year in the Big 12. So that's where I think you got to start pushing the panic button. You only got one more year in the Big 12. So you don't have very much room. You don't have very much time anymore to get this thing together.
The SEC will be the SEC. By that time, here's the thing, okay? Venables would have been able to recruit. He probably have at least 2 recruiting cycles underneath him. You're going to double down on that with a lot of the talent that you already have on the field who would have been played in the system for going on at least 2 years, So with that being said, you're going to be fine. I think one of the keys that you have to look at this, I mean, one of the things you have to look at this year is there a certain point in time that you say, okay, it's time to play the younger guys? Is there a certain time where you give up on the season? I don't think you give up on the season because, as we all know, the Big 12 is really the one conference where you play everybody. You don't dodge people. As much as the top-heavy leagues, I'm looking at you directly, SEC and SEC fans. As much as they love to talk about it, they dodge those teams. They dodge having to play everybody. It's great that Alabama is playing in Arkansas today. That is amazing. But when you have LSU and Florida and teams like that, or not LSU and Florida, that's a poor example, but like LSU and Auburn and all those teams, or Georgia for sure. Georgia doesn't have to play everybody. They go forever without having to play Bama in during the season, right?
It had been 8 years. It had been 8 years since last year.
Yeah.
8 years. 8 years.
So I'm gonna take my shot there, but like I'm saying, okay, the SEC will take care of itself. I'm worried about the here and now and going forward. This team needs to improve, and it's not going to happen overnight, people. It's not. We have a lot of improvement to do, but there's still hope for the season. And I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to say it now. I think at worst, they rebound from this, and I think at worst, I'm still going to say it, 9-3. Let me put that in the chat. I mean, is that being too optimistic, PG, or am I hitting?
No, I think that's too optimistic. Just because I think the Big 12 is just too good this year, and it's not that these guys can't play and we don't have the talent. I think we're still outside of Texas. I think Texas is the most talented team in the Big 12 because, let's be honest, Texas just recruits more talent than OU every year. That's just how it is. Because of their brand, because of their money, OU just develops better than Texas. However, OU is probably the second best, most talented team in the Big 12. And they should be able to go out there and out-talent teams, right? I just think it's optimistic because, again, if Texas really wants to go out, and honestly, like, I think Texas just doesn't want to go out there and beat OU. I really think they want to go out there and embarrass OU after all the losses that they've had to us. So It wouldn't shock me if they really do try to throw Quinn Ewers out there and try to put up 70 points.
Would you say the last 3 years, right?
Yeah, it's the last 4 of the last 5 times we played, because remember we had the Big 12 championship game. 3 of the last 4 Big Red River games we've won. Yeah. So they've been on the wrong end of this rivalry, and I think they're ready to turn that. And honestly, if they lose today, it's going to be a must-win for Sark next week. Because I think if Sark loses today and next week, he could be potentially on the hot seat.
Even in year two.
With all it's just because of all of the hype and everything that they have with Quinn Ewers there, all of the talent, and then Arch Manning coming in next year and the class that they have. I just think these boosters are going to get a little antsy, but that's the dysfunction of the Texas Longhorns for you. But I said it. I don't think we're going to beat Texas with the way that we look, with all the injuries we just had, and then, I mean, I think we'll be lucky to beat Oklahoma State and Baylor. Even though those are at home, I think we'll be lucky to win both of those games.
Here's the point. Go ahead. Finish your point. I'm sorry, PJ.
Yeah, Iowa State, Kansas, Texas Tech. I think, you can still put it together in those games because Iowa State's starting a true freshman at quarterback, or I think he's a true freshman at quarterback. Kansas, you should just be able to out-talent Kansas. I know that they're 4-0, potentially going to go 5-0 this week, coming into Norman with, like, a bunch of momentum. But, again, like, you should be able to out-talent that team. And then Texas Tech, again, you should be able to out-talent them. They're only getting, 3 and a couple 4-star guys every year. So – but Baylor and Oklahoma State and Texas, those are the games that I circle on the calendar now and go, those are concerning.
Here's what I say here, okay? 2 comments that poke out like a sore thumb right now. David Whitehead. Saban went 7-6 his first year at Alabama.
I hate those. I
No.
hate that. Okay.
No. Let me finish. Step by step, game by game. That's what John Russell said, okay? We will be fine. Again, let me quote him. The great Aaron Rodgers, the bad man, as Stephen A would say. RELAX, relax. Because at the same time, those teams still have to come and play us. I know that we look bad. I know that we look this, but different game, different matchups. It's got to be a 24-hour mentality. Lost this one. It was terrible. It was a poor performance. It was piss poor. It was all of that. Let's move on. Right now, we don't have to because we're living in that moment. But eventually tomorrow and the next day, we're going to have to put this one behind us and get ramped up for the Texas game. As many problems as we have, Texas has a lot of problems themselves. So, with that being said, Worthy has not looked like the Worthy of last year. I'm not going to say he's hit the sophomore wall, but what I will say, he's dropping a lot of touchdowns, not just passes, touchdowns. Bijan Robinson has looked good, but he's still, that shoulder, is it good or what's going on? Are we going to see Quinn Ewers? Are we going to see a full game of Quinn Ewers? Is Quinn Ewers going to take a hit and get hurt again, and then we'll have the card show? It's a lot of questions to ask on that side as well. So going into this game, which is a rivalry game, which anything can happen at any point in time, I still gotta ride with the boys. I think OU gets it, and I think OU wins. I think it's an ugly win, but I think that you get the win in Dallas next week. I think you get the win at the Cotton Bowl. I really do.
I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong because I hate it when we lose to Texas and we have to hear the Texas fans. Just like I hate it when we lose to OSU and we have to hear the OSU fans. It's been brutal this year, hearing all my OSU fans talk crap. However, I hate the argument around, Saban did this and he had that turnip seed and everything else. It's not the same. It's not. Like, I just hate using those comparisons because I think Brent Venables will be great, but he's not going to be Nick Saban.
I mean, look, I think one of the comments I saw on Ty's live stream was this. I think by your boy Matt. Venables has only been here for like 10 months or so, man. It's hard to say. It's hard to sit here and just say, oh, yeah, he's not going to be him. He's not going to be them. He's going to be Brett Venables, and I think he's going to be damn good. And I do think that before it's said and done, Brett Venables will give us number 8. Book it.
Now, hey, the good news is, though, with all of our coordinators and everything, and this just not being a good year, I don't think anybody's going to come look at our coordinators to be hired this year or next year. So
that's the whole thing. But you got to think about this too: the continuity that you could possibly have next year. And I know next year is still a long way away, but you got to think about it. Gabriel most likely is going to have to come back. If you can get Weiss and Mims to stay, and Mims not go to the draft, and he comes back, your offense is going to be clicking once again. You got a lot of guys out there. Huh?
Is Mims and Weiss able to stay? Are they not seniors? Hold on.
Well, I mean, all of them still have probably that COVID year where they can opt into that. And then Weiss, Mims,
they're both juniors. They're both juniors. So
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, they should. Yeah.
Drake Stoops is a senior.
Drake may still have that COVID year, though.
So how does the COVID year work? Because I know this is confusing, and I'm pretty sure this is probably confusing for a lot of people. Yeah. Did they have to sit out the COVID year to get the COVID year, or
no?
Just everybody got it.
Everybody got it.
Okay.
And hell, Spencer Sanders most likely is going to be back at OSU next year,
and Spencer Rattler will probably still be at South Carolina.
Well, he's going to be there for multiple reasons, but yeah, that's one of them.
Listen. I know OU fans did not like him last year, but I would take Spencer Rattler right now because even though Spencer Rattler was not as mobile, Spencer Rattler was damn accurate. He could put the ball where he needed it, and Arkansas just turned the ball over, 14-0 Alabama.
And that may be a blowout. Yeah,
it's going to be a blowout. Drew Sanders, though, has gotten a couple hits on Bryce Young. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, no, you're right. There's probably nothing to panic about. But, we've talked about it. Kansas is just really good, and that game concerns me, which Kansas is up 7-0 right now on Iowa State. And mind you, this isn't our defense can just go in there and our defensive line can just go in there and get to these quarterbacks, especially, we think of Jalen Daniels as a lesser quarterback. That Kansas offensive line has only allowed 1 sack this season. 1 sack. So, yeah. And that Oklahoma State offensive line doesn't look too shabby either. So that's the thing. I
still don't think they have a run game, though. I still don't think Oklahoma State has a run game.
It just frustrates me that the offense or the defense looked so. I'm going to say so good, but what I mean is immensely improved from the past couple of years because they were just tackling better. When a guy caught the ball, they were right there to wrap them up. So it's like, hey, yeah, like you gave up a play, but you were right there to take them down. I'm just not seeing that anymore. And like today, after they got down, what was it, 20-7 or 20-3? It looked like they just kind of almost given up at that point. Like, I did not see any sense of urgency from those players. And when Gabriel went down, I didn't see any sense of urgency from the players there outside of a couple offensive linemen that just wanted to go stick up for him.
Give me a second. Pull up OU's schedule and let's run down the remaining games and let's just kind of talk it out.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up right here. So the next game is Texas. You're technically the home team or whatever it is against Texas. It's going to be an 11 o'clock game. Again, they're expecting Quinn Ewers to be back at that game. They are missing, I think it's 2 starting offensive linemen that they had at the beginning of the season. So that's probably the weak spot for Texas. But do we expect that our defensive line is going to be able to go in there and expose the Texas offensive line? Because I think that's the key next week. If the defensive line for Oklahoma can go in there and expose the Texas offensive line and the inexperience there, I think you got a real good shot at that game.
Like I said, if Gabriel's back, we win the game hands down. If he's not back, it's going to be piece by piece, and we're going to have to slow this game down a little bit for Bevel because Bevel's going to have to be more decisive than what he was today.
Does Bevel have to be the quarterback? Do you not think there's a scenario in your head that goes, okay, there is a scenario in this week in practice where all 5 quarterbacks in that room are going to get a shot with the first string guys and see who just looks better? Because
I wouldn't say all 5, but I would say General Booty, Bevel, and then you still take a look at Evers and see has he progressed enough. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to look at Evers, but then you got Michael Bowen who came from Penn State. So
come on now, that's just too far down. I think that you could come out there with some different looks if you're Levy trying to make it exotic and try to confuse them as much as possible. But at the same time, you're going to have to figure something out because you have weapons yourself. You can't go out there and just play around. I'm not going to say Michael Bowens is bad, but I'm just saying that with Bevel, I don't know. Outside of Dylan Gabriel, we didn't think we would be at this point. Everybody, Texas fans were saying it for the longest. Like, hey, do you think that if Gabriel goes down, what are you guys going to do? Well, we're here now. We got to figure it out.
And I'm going to call this person out. Sooner Cowboys need to no. BB did not lose this team.
Yeah.
No, he did not lose this team. He has not lost this locker room. So we're not even going to go there. So yeah. So you have OU Texas. I think you and I can both agree though that any year, no matter how bad you are, or what you're missing, that game's a toss-up. It's really hard to call who's going to win that game. Because Oklahoma could look like the better team but get smoked by Texas. Same thing, vice versa for Texas.
Yeah,
so the next week you have Kansas at home. Now, Kansas is probably going to be 6-0 because they have Iowa State this week, which I think they're going to win that game. And then they have TCU at home, and Bryce Young is walking into the tent. Looks like he got hurt. Drew Sanders got a good hit on him. And whoever Holden is, too, got hurt. Anyways, so the question is, can the OU defense slow down that Kansas offense? Because that Kansas offense is hot and moving right now.
I think that you can. I mean, from what I've seen from the offense, still, I've seen it in person. I've seen it. I've seen enough of it. I still think that OU obviously is the more talented team. I think OU just has to play disciplined football, and that's what I'm thinking that they'll get back to with this next game and the game after that. All it takes is one, in my opinion. All it takes is one good win to get this team back on track, and we'll go from there, and piece by piece, step by step, game by game. We go into the bye week after the Kansas game, and then we go to Iowa State. Iowa State's going to come out there and honestly play a similar game to TCU. Their quarterback is kind of up and down, but at the same time, what do we do?
And we got to be glad that game's not on Thursday night anymore.
Yeah, hopefully it's going to be an 11 a.m. game. But just go ahead and buckle up, people. We're going to be playing in a lot of 11 a.m. games from here on out. Possibly a 2:30 game here and there, but it's most likely going to be at 11 a.m. for the rest of the
Kansas will probably be a 2:30 or a 5:30 game, I would bet. Especially if Kansas becomes a top 25 team, they're going to want to put Kansas, because here's the thing. They're going to want to put Kansas up there to potentially upset Oklahoma and Texas this year. So I think that'll be a great storyline for ESPN.
But at the same time, they're playing at home against Texas. They got to come to Norman, so we'll see. I'm not as – I know that you're pretty bullish on them, but at the same time, hey, you still got to come and do it.
I know you got to come and do it, but Norman is not what it has been in the past. I remember growing up as a kid, which is funny to say because I'm only 25, but I remember growing up when I was younger and watching OU play, and what was it, like a 47 or 48 game home win streak?
PG, I got to stop you there. How many times have we lost in Norman? We lost to K-State, lost to K-State twice. Let's put it twice at OU, twice in Norman.
No, you've lost 4 times to K-State at home in Norman since 2010.
Since 2010?
Yes. And then you've lost Ohio State, Notre Dame, Iowa State, Baylor, and I think that's it. Mm-hmm. I don't think TCU's beat us at home.
No.
Oklahoma State has. Oklahoma State has, though, I think.
That one time.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much on both of your hands how many times we lost in that. 12-year period?
I'm just saying it's not what I like when I started, because when I started to actually grow up and start watching football, you got to remember I was watching it in prime golden age OU football, right? We were at least going to national championships. We had Adrian Peterson, then you had Sam Bradford coming in, you had DeMarco Murray, Joaquin Iglesias, Jermaine Gresham, all of these guys, Austin Box, all of those guys. And had I think it was like a 48 or a 50-some game home win streak. And it's just I remember being in the stadium that day that we lost to, it was either Texas Tech or Kansas State. It was one of those two teams that had ended our streak. And it might have been K-State.
Probably was K-State with Colin Klein.
Yeah. And I remember, and I remember that, and I remember it just sucked and it felt so bad. And then I don't feel like our home field advantage has been as good as it used to be since that time.
I disagree on that one, but I do think that with Kansas coming in and all the rest of that stuff, look, history is still going to go against them. The whole thing is we could look bad today and look great tomorrow. You just never know. And especially with this team, you don't know what you're going to get, because at the end of the day, we're sitting here talking about the here and now. I get that. But 2 weeks ago, we were sitting here talking about, hey, this team looks damn good after coming off that win against Nebraska, because they went up there and they handled business and they played really, really well. But the wheels that fell off the wagon, I hate to say that, but the wheels that fell off the wagon. So after Iowa State, where are you going?
We got Baylor at home.
That's going to be a tough-ass game right there because offensively, Shapen is not the quarterback that I think they even thought that he would be at this point because he's not playing great football, in my opinion. But at the same time, Dave Aranda is still over there, and that defense is going to be going to be pitching at a high cylinder. So that's going to be a tough one.
And at West Virginia is next.
That's
And it's
going to
be
a tough game.
November 12th. It's going to be November 12th. So there's a potential that we've got snow in that game. It could potentially be a night game because, they like to give us those night games in West Virginia for some reason. So
Morgantown is a difficult place to play too.
Terrible fans. I think they're the worst fans in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And so then we come home and we play Oklahoma State in Bedlam.
And then go to Texas Tech. I
will be in Lubbock. I will be in Lubbock for that game. So I'm going to throw some tortillas on the field.
Hold on. Where is it at?
It's Oklahoma State at home, and then it's at Lubbock. So to end the season.
So I'm going to ask the chat directly, okay? And then I'm going to ask you too, PG, at the same time. Will OU go at least 9-3? I'm going to ask you one last time. Will OU at least go 9-3 this year?
No, I think the ceiling's 8 games. And I saw somebody say in the chat that I'm conceding Oklahoma is losing to Texas. Listen, my heart is for OU, and I want to say OU is going to go out there and win every game. But since I'm out here and I'm putting myself out here as a person that's going to call college football games and to make myself reputable, I have to call it how I see it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look good, And I know it doesn't make people happy, but listen, I'm in the same shoes as y'all. I want OU to go out there. I want them to win a bunch of games. I want them to win a national championship. You'll hear me probably every year be the first guy, unless OU just looks terrible, that tells you, hey, OU's going to go win a national championship, or OU could go win a national championship. However, I think 8 games is the ceiling now. I think you'll at least probably split that Oklahoma State Baylor series and probably go 1-2.
Yeah.
And yeah. And you know what? If I have to pick my game of which one we win out of those 2, I hope it's Oklahoma State. Because I cannot deal with the Stillwater loss again.
I'm calling it now. You'll beat Texas and you'll beat Oklahoma State for sure this year. Everything else is just kind of up and grabs because I feel like they're going to be up to play. And you know what? Shout out to Hank. Shout out to Hank for holding me down 10-2 until I'm proven wrong. Let's get it. 10-2.
Hey, you know what? Can we just say Hank's a true Sooner fan right there?
10-2 until I'm proven wrong, man. Stop playing. Stop playing with me, man. I guess the last thing we'll do, let's just go back to the defense just one last time. From a technical standpoint, what are we doing wrong? I mean, obviously we could say tackling, but that's so broad. But that's still, I mean, it's vague in a sense with this defense because there's so much that you feel like.
Okay. I can tell you something else other than tackling. They're confused. And you saw it multiple times today in coverages. Justin Harrington was right here. The receiver would run right past him because he's looking this way. The receiver runs right around him that way. Long pass. That's exactly what's going on out there.
I mean, the alignments, there's no gap integrity out there. They're not playing the gaps well. Nobody's doing their job because if you just do your job, you'll be put in a position to make a play on the ball. Everybody knows that's exactly ultimately the goal of this Brett Venables defense. And it is just crazy and frustrating to see players being out of position all the time. I haven't seen busts like this since Mark Stoops. Mike Stoops was back there. I haven't seen busts like this in a while with our secondary. And we have so much damn talent back there. And coming into the season, you thought that would probably be the more consistent and better piece of our defense, but it's not.
Well, and I'll just say this. I think a lot of it has been Billy Bowman being out this game because last game it's not that I saw Billy Bowman getting beat and seeing those long, deep passes on Billy Bowman last week. So I think a lot of it was Billy Bowman just not being here this week because he was hurt. So I would expect that to get
at the same time,
but it's the confusion because like last week where you really saw the confusion was when do I go up to go get Adrian Martinez? Because you've got Adrian Martinez here and you've got your defender here with the receiver. And they're right here on the defender and Adrian Martinez is running. Let's say this is the line. Adrian Martinez gets to about right here, and all of a sudden this guy wants to pull up before he crosses the line of scrimmage, and then he lobs the ball to the receiver. And that's just confusion, not knowing where you need to be on the plays, not knowing when to pull up and when to stay back. And I don't know. And the thing is, I feel like some of these guys are experienced enough to not be having that issue. I might be wrong. I mean, I'm not a football player, so I sometimes don't understand these coverages and everything as well. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is new to them. They just don't understand it. But that's, I think, something that's got to get fixed is just the confusion and the communication, which I feel like David Agwebu has done a good job this year at being able to place people in the right positions. But I think it's a lot of like Danny Stutzman and some of those guys just don't know, like, they can get put in the right position, but they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And so, and also, by the way, I know I've been giving a lot of updates. I don't think Bryce Young's coming back in this game. He threw his helmet off on the sideline and went into the tent. He did not look happy. Looks like he's got something wrong with his arm. So,
I thought it was his knee, but
maybe it's his knee, but it kind of looked like his arm from the way he was messing with it. I don't know.
They're up 21-0, so I mean, I'm
yeah, but there's a lot of football to be played in that game.
Hell, that's what we said about this game. Well, guys, look, we're gonna be fine. Still Boomer Sooner till I die. We will be fine. We will regroup. Let's get it next week, man. It starts with Texas. Let's start this thing anew. Let's get Texas. Let's get them off. Let's.
Yeah, and let me say this. Don't go bashing the players on social media, guys, because, again, I talk to some of these recruits. They see what you guys say to these players on social media. It's different when it comes from, like, these podcasts and things because we're analyzing the games. But when you guys are on Twitter just ripping these players a new one, calling them names and everything else, it doesn't look good for us, and it doesn't make these recruits want to come here. So, you know, instead of getting onto them, try to encourage them a little bit. Tell them you're behind them. That's what's going to help our recruiting out. You want a 5-star David Hicks to come here? Do those kind of things. Show some more love.
Well, I think that next week, contrary to everybody else's belief, we'll get back on. We'll put the wheels back on the wagon, and OU will be victorious against Texas. I'm calling it now. Guys,
you know I hope you're right. I hope you're right because I worked for Dell Technologies, and everybody I work for is from almost Austin, and so they're all Texas fans. And you know what? They've had to deal with me for the past couple of years, and I don't want to have to deal with them this year.
Well, we shall see. Go ahead, PG. Tell everybody where they can find you at.
Yeah, y'all can find me, the PG Show, on YouTube or Apple, Google, or Spotify on the podcast platforms. You guys can also find me at the PG Show _ on Twitter. We just launched our first NIL deal with Jaden Knowles. He's going to be coming on about once a month to just talk a little bit of OU football, a little bit of college football in general. So we're really excited about that. We're looking at bringing in more content. So please go ahead, like and subscribe. Go check us out. Really helps me out a lot.
All right, guys. Hey, look, you guys can find me at Kchris with a K at the Horns Down Podcast. You see it, and you see the at PG Show. Definitely follow PG. PG has a lot of great content, and he's got some incredible interviews as well that he does. So, with that being said, guys, this is the Horns Down Podcast. We'll be back. And guys, look, we'll be fine. Relax. Don't press the panic button yet. Relax. We'll be fine.